If you've watched episode 2, you have a better understanding of dynamics. Now we can control these dynamics with certain effects. In this episode, we're going to be talking about compression. This is EDM time. So what is a compressor? A compressor automatically reduces the volume of your sound. This changes the shape of your waveform. If I punch this wall, it hurts. Ow! If I put this pillow in front of it, my punches are dampened, sort of like a compressor dampening the peaks of your audio. Another example of this is the suspension in your car. Just like this truck's suspension dampens the speed bumps in the road, a compressor dampens the spikes or peaks of the audio, which reduces its dynamic range. Compressors have 5 main controls: threshold, ratio, attack, release, and makeup gain. Threshold. In this example, the towel represents the threshold and the skateboard represents the volume of your audio. As you lower the threshold, the compressor will start to affect the peaks of the audio.
Solid.
But how hard is the compressor working? We control that with ratio. This basketball is going to represent our audio. In this example, the ratio isn't turned up at all, so the audio is uncompressed. First, we have a low ratio represented by this towel. The towel is slightly reducing the height of the bounce once it crosses the threshold. I would call this light compression. Next, we have a higher ratio, which is reducing the bounce even more. I would refer to this as heavy compression. Now we have a very high ratio, which is nearly limiting the height the ball can bounce. Compression with very high ratios is also called limiting because it's doing just that. Last, we have a piece of wood, which doesn't give at all and acts like a brick wall. This kind of compression is sometimes called brick wall limiting because it completely stops the audio peaks from crossing the threshold. Yeah! So, the higher your ratio is, the harder it is for your audio peaks to pass the threshold. Attack and release. So a compressor just reduces the volume. This volume reduction is called gain reduction. Now the gain reduction has 2 controls, attack and release. The attack controls how fast the volume is reduced, and the release controls how fast the volume is brought back up. Have you ever been watching a movie and suddenly there's a part that's way too loud? You'll probably want to turn down the volume as fast as you can. You're doing the job of a compressor by turning the volume down. Since you're turning it down fast, it's similar to having a fast attack setting. Once the explosions have passed and it's back to normal dialogue, you'll want to bring the volume back up to hear what's going on. If you do this fast, it's like having a fast release time on the compressor. So remember, attack is how fast the compressor jumps on the sound and turns it down, and release is the speed that it lets off the volume reduction, or how fast it turns it back up. In the same example, if you're lazy and you take longer to turn the volume down when it's too loud, it's similar to having a slower attack. Some of the loud part will get through before it's turned down. When the movie gets quiet again, you'll need to bring the volume back up to hear the dialogue. If you're slow to turn it back up, you won't hear all the quiet parts, which is like having a slow release.
Keep in mind that real compressors can work much faster than my lazy
Here is an actual compressor with a sound that has a drastic change in volume. Just like the movie example, the volume suddenly rises and drops again. For this example, I'll turn the ratio all the way up and bring the threshold near the floor of the dynamic range. Since the attack and release times are very fast, the compressor reacts quickly to the volume change, so you can only hear the rise and fall of the volume for an instant before it's leveled out by the compression. If I raise the release time, you can hear the drop in audio more because the compressor can't react to the volume as fast. Now I'll raise the attack time. You can hear more of the loud part now because the compressor can't drop volume as fast. You can see how changing the attack and release times have changed the audio's shape. As I change the attack and release times again, pay attention to the shape of the volume. Depending on the sound you want to compress, try different attack and release times. Makeup gain. Once you've compressed your sound, it's going to reduce the overall volume. If you want to bring the volume back up, just use the makeup gain. Makeup gain is a volume knob for the output of your compressor. So that's compression. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching EDM Time.